All right, so about a year and a half ago, I was sitting in my career counselor's office, just letting out a little steam about how frustrated I was that I was a psychology major unable to pursue things like graphic design, which I had a really strong interest in, and why I didn't understand finances despite the fact that I was in school spending buttloads of money. And I really was interested in understanding business because that's what real life is after you get out of college. And so I felt like I was in this silo and that I was supposed to go to grad school, despite the fact that I didn't even know what I wanted to study in grad school. I didn't know if I even wanted to become a psychologist like everyone assumed I would be becoming. I was also incredibly sick of the classroom. I loved getting to discuss with my classmates, but I felt like maybe there was a deeper conversation we weren't having. And that was really frustrating to me. So I left the office, continued with classes, and a really unique opportunity just stumbled into my life. There was a representative from this program in Denmark called the Danish Institute for Study Abroad, and she told us about how we could do hands-on learning, and I was like, sign me up. So I walked over, more like power walked over, to the international office, found out applications were due the next day, spent the entire night filling out this application, sent it in, and a week later, I was going to Copenhagen, Denmark, I found out. And obviously, it's a beautiful place, but I don't think anyone could have prepared me for the educational experience I was going to have there. Not that representative from the program, not any student that had been there, but I'm going to attempt to do that today for you. I took a class called Creative Business Thinking, and I had 5 professors. The first day I walked into that class, I was like, 4 of them are stuck-up students, and I know who you are now. But one of you is a professor. And then class started, and there were 5 professors. It was amazing, and they were each experts in their own field. And it made so much sense once class started that they were taking turns lecturing on their given topic. And then, in addition to that, we were putting into practice what they had just talked about weeks, if not days, later. We learned about design thinking, and one of the first major things that they announced to us was that we were doing a partnered project with Volvo. Yeah, I mean the car company. And it was amazing. I got connections that I still have today to Volvo in Denmark. I still talk with him on a bi-monthly basis. I got to connect with students who I would have never interacted with before. I'm one psychology student in a class full of business majors. I came for the creative, they came for the business, but we worked together. So this silo of majors exploded. I was out in this field exploring things with them, and they became people to me. They weren't business majors who look at financial records all day. They were people, just like me. I went to an open prison in Denmark because in my positive psychology class, we discussed the reincarceration rates and how they were half of the United States. And it was because of this system of the open prison. I would never have remembered this statistic, and it would never have meant anything to me had I not gone to an open prison. And now you're probably wondering, what is an open prison? Well, it literally is an open place. I'm not kidding you. It's open. It's like your really nice neighbor's fence, like maybe this high, and inmates are inside of it. Granted, it's out in the country, so like if you've got some people like running around, it's not that scary, but it's great. And we walk in, and if I didn't know who was in my class, I would have assumed any of these inmates were my classmates. We were walking around, taking the tour, and then we come into the dormitories where they live. And the staff member greets us. We're having an everyday conversation. And then he leads us to his room. He was an inmate. And I'm standing here, and the rest of my class, when he drops this on us, we're like, there's this moment of complete silence. And I'm like, okay, this is a schema. This is what I've been learning about for years and years, and now I'm confronting it and having to re-update it. This is that process happening in my brain. And I had to weigh, this is a prisoner, and this is a person. And I grappled with them, and I dropped it. And I said, he's a person, and there are not silos here. And this is why this statistic is working. This is why these people are able to step outside of prison and be people and be socialized and not go back, because he said, I used to be in the high security prison, and then I came here. And I was told there I'm an awful person, I'm bad. And what am I gonna do? Bad. And now I'm here, and I got the opportunity to study psychology. We're friends. And he said, I'm going to get out of here and go help youths who are in my same situation. It was amazing. This is why this statistic is working. I wouldn't have believed it. All of us before coming were like, this isn't prison, this isn't punishment, these people are criminals, let's treat them as such. But if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so another thing that this program did for me is they let me realize this instead of memorize things. I wasn't memorizing statistics about reincarceration rates, why the welfare system works in Denmark, and why it wouldn't work other places, or just why positive psychology is awesome. I wasn't memorizing it, I was living it, experiencing it. So as you might imagine, upon returning home, I was experiencing, obviously, reverse culture shock, and I was pretty pissed, just in general. Mostly about education and how I had to leave behind this portfolio-building, life-giving experience to go back into a classroom, to be told what I needed to do, and to be a grade-giving machine. It was like I was being robbed of something that gave me so much. And I also wanted other people to experience it. Who am I to study abroad? Who am I to live this privileged life when other people can't even go to school? And I realized that this opportunity doesn't have to be something that only I and other students who go to Denmark can experience. It's based on an American model of education. It's not that it's a Danish school. They took what America had and what most people consider education to be working as, and they added in experiential learning. Why are we not doing that here? We know in psychology how people learn. There's a self-reference effect. That is why storytelling is so much more impactful than statistics, because the mind is wired to capture stories. I realized 4 things that I got from this program. I had academic freedom. I was able to take classes that were very diverse. I took changing the news so I could pursue my interests in writing and journalism and understand an emerging field in journalism. I was on the cusp of everything that was happening in the real world, in real time, making real connections with business people and my professors. I was networking. I got experiential learning, and I was applying things I had just learned and learning that I don't have to go to school for years and then go do my thing, which I'm learning. I can do it and learn in real time. It's perfect, because then I've realized things that I never would have known, and this shell shock of post-graduation doesn't exist anymore. I asked questions, hard ones, and then I was asked hard questions in return. My professors would give me questions that they didn't even know the answers to. And as a class, we'd sit there, discuss it, and realize that maybe things aren't quite so black and white. And they also brought in the experts. As was the evidence of the 5-professor class that I had, they could certainly admit that they're not an expert in everything. So let's bring in who knows. And let's also blur the line of who's student and who's teacher. Because as students, we've had very unique experiences. We can step up and say, this is something I know about. I never get that chance in the American classroom, if ever. And when I was exploring and grappling with this frustration that I had upon returning, I was like, I can't believe that this is the only place that I could ever experience this. But thank God that that is not the case. These are some places that are already doing this. High schools, elementary schools, graduate programs in Pittsburgh. Everywhere across the world, this is occurring. And that's great, but why isn't it happening everywhere? And why doesn't everyone know about it? So this today is an introduction into a larger conversation. I want you to go out there and explain to other people what experiential learning is. Have a discussion with somebody, and then start making that actionable. The larger this conversation is, the more that it's going to happen. And the more important thing is that even if you don't have this conversation, it is still going to happen, because I can tell you as a student who's been in 4 different higher education settings. I started out at a public university. I went to a community college. I'm now at a private university, and I've studied abroad. I have had countless interviews on and off the record with students, who are craving experience. They want the real world right now. So go out today and talk to somebody about experiential learning, because like it or not, it is the future of education. Thank you.